Hello, I'm Jam. I'm an artist and I'm a game designer. My spouse and I run Dinoberry Press, where we create and publish tabletop role-playing games, adventures, stickers, other goodies, bookmarks, all kinds of stuff. This is Dinoberry Studio, where I'll be making art, sharing my design process, and celebrating the wonderful TTRPGs we love along the way. This month, I wanted to try drawing a postcard dungeon using watercolors and colored pencils. I haven't used watercolors in a pretty long time, so I'm very excited. Usually when I get started creating a dungeon, I need like a spark of inspiration, and one of my favorite ways to get like a very quick prompt is actually to use this random Pokemon type generator from CodeBeautify. I like to set it to generate 2 types, click, and that's it! It's an instant source of inspiration for me. So for this dungeon, I got Bug and Steel. I really like this prompt. The first thing that came to mind is actually the crystal lizards from Dark Souls. I love them. I know they're not bugs, but they're still little critters, and I think that's why they came to mind. Steel also makes me think in the direction of like minerals, rocks, crystals, jewels, industrial mining, that kind of stuff. So I decided this is going to be like an abandoned, bejeweled bug mine. Or actually a bug hive. Maybe the way someone could like start this adventure into this dungeon, maybe there's like a missing person and you're asked to investigate. Or maybe there's like this loose little bug in the wild with like gems growing out of its back, and it like catches your eye and you chase it through the woods and you end up at this boarded up mine entrance. So now that I have a theme and a general idea of the history of this place, I could start sketching out the main rooms and corridors. I used a bright orange pencil so that it's not super obvious underneath the watercolor I'll be using. I know I want a big room in the deepest part of the dungeon for a big mama queen bug, potentially a boss fight, arena or something. I'll make some supply and locker rooms at the front entrance, where maybe the workers use to prepare their tools and get all their stuff for delving deeper into the mines. Maybe they're like harvesting crystals off the bugs. I love the idea of that. I want these areas to be obviously more constructed and like made, less natural. So I'll make these rooms more square and rectangular instead of like bean shaped like the rest of the cave system is. I know I want a little bit of a maze with these corridors and have some smaller rooms here and there. So I'm adding a bunch of bean shapes. I also want one room that's disconnected from the rest. Maybe it can be a secret shortcut into the Queen's chamber. Maybe the players can find a way to get past the rubble. I also want to make a few rooms of interest. Closer to the Queen's room, I think I'll make a nursery and a chamber with a purple honey pool. The nursery, full of baby bugs, they're going to have their own little honey ponds to drink from too. So I start by filling out the rooms by painting in all the little bean shapes. For the entrance to the mine, I wanted the room to look like there was light pouring in from the outside, so I kept it bright. By the way, the watercolors I'm using here are from Winsor Newton. I have this little air dry clay piece that holds all of the little loose pans I have. The pencils are softcore Prismacolors. Here and there I also use Posca markers. This Mix Media sketchbook isn't very special. It just came free with a block printing kit. It's not perfect with watercolor, but it did okay. All this stuff will be in the description below, so feel free to check it out later. This flat brush turned out to be the perfect width to use for all my corridors and paths and tunnels. I did want to be careful about connecting too many paths to one room. In my experience, having more than 3 can be tricky to describe. And as a player who might not be looking at the map, sometimes it's difficult to imagine. I don't exactly follow my sketch in the end, but that's okay. It's my dungeon, I do what I want. So the honey pool was looking a little sad, so I decided to add some rivers. But that still wasn't enough though, so I actually ended up flooding the entire chamber in honey. Of course, the queen also gets her own little drinking pool. I'm glad I went with the change. It's a lot more interesting now. Imagine walking into like a room just entirely full of purple, shimmering honey. Like, what do you do with that? I just love that thought. Like, what are people gonna do where they walk into this room and what do you do? Do you touch the honey? Do you collect the honey? Is the honey tempting? Is it ominous? It's just really fun to think about. Once I'm happy with all the basic shapes of the rooms, I use my colored pencils to fill in the background and give it a rougher texture. I used a few shades of brown, purple, navy, maroon. While I was working on this, I purposefully added more blues to the left side of the map so it felt deeper and like more underground than the like brighter browns and reddish hues on the right side of the map. So it felt more like closer to the surface. My favorite thing about making these little postcard dungeons is that it's really fun to think about all the different ways people can run with them. Even though everyone is given the same building blocks, there's so many variables that still make up for all these possibilities, right? Because it's not as like structured or as like intensely detailed as, you know, an adventure is. A usual adventure, which can be like many pages. These kind of force you to have these open-ended spaces where anything can happen. Just for fun, I added a little compass rose with a little gem in the center. This took a while, but I love the end result. I love how it came out. Next, I felt like there wasn't enough contrast between the explorable areas and the space between, so I painted on beige outlines around like the mining camp rooms and a thin lavender outline to the caves and the tunnels. I thought this would help the map pop a little bit more, and I really like how it turned out. Any mistakes I made with painting these lines, I just went back over with colored pencils to fix. To make stairways, I just added all these teeny tiny little lines in beige to some of the paths. I think the texture turned out really neat. For the nursery, I used my Posca pen to make out like little burrows, or maybe they're eggs, all around the nursery and give it some interesting texture. To emphasize the main entrance into the caves, I made this corridor wider than all the others. And I also added like the top-down view of double doors by making like these 2 thick lines that block the path with like a tiny gap in the middle. Lastly, I added a bunch of texture all over. To give the purple honey a kind of glistening appearance, I added a bunch of tiny little dots in pink and maroon and dark purple. I gave some of the rooms silhouettes of objects, and other rooms got like hatching marks. These details are all up to interpretation. They can be like barrels or processing machines, tables, rubble. It's up to the players or the game master to decide. After all the details are added, that's the map done. Next, it's time to paint and draw the glimmer bugs. Here's the sketch I made off camera. I took inspiration from real-life isopods, ladybugs, bees, and wasps to create all their different body shapes. You can interpret these guys as like different life stages of the same creature, like caterpillars becoming butterflies, or like Pokemon with different evolutions. Or they can be like different build types that serve different purposes in a hive, like how there are ant colonies in real life that have like your run-of-the-mill workers, and then they're like the really big soldier ants. Because this is meant for a postcard, I have a very limited amount of space to work with, only 7 by 5 inches, so I can't add too many details about the glimmer bugs. But I had so many more ideas for crystal infused bugs, like moths and mantis and rhino beetles. Like, they would all be so freaking cool, but I've only got so much space. I had a lot of fun painting the crystals in this. Watercolors make it a lot of fun to, like push and pull the colors in the pools of water. I'm really excited to get back into watercolor art again. Moss would be so cool. Mantises would be so cool. Rhino beetles would be so freaking cool. Like, there's more I want to do, but there's only so much space. Do y'all think I should make a sequel to this dungeon? I want to know. Maybe the company that like abandoned this mine moved to another and they like make a call for help. So maybe the players can assist them. Or the players can decide, hey, no, you gotta leave these bugs alone and the operation needs to be stopped instead. I'm not sure. I just want to make more crystal bugs for y'all to meet. Let me justify making more buggies with pretty crystals on their backs and their booties. What I think is neat about system agnostic content is that it does a great job at helping people fill in the gaps that they have in their world, right? It's not meant to be playable from the get-go, like with nothing behind it, but they're great tools that can kind of stretch and help fill in what you feel like might be missing in your current campaign or your current world. Although I started off imagining this bug mine in a high fantasy setting, I think it could easily fit into a sci-fi universe. Like, this could be a facility on an asteroid that's infested with space bugs. This can also be post-apocalyptic, where you have radiation or whatever is going on affecting what used to be bugs, and now they are growing these like overgrown crystals and creating this mysterious purple honey stuff. I've also included a little puzzle that could help make the caves feel more like a maze. Players can find a note that describes like a confusing path to a buried treasure. What's the treasure? It could be like an important object to the storyline, or it can just be like a cool new tool the players might find. In the text, I just call it a high-valued object, but I leave it undescribed so it can be open-ended. Here's another place where, you know, the game master can like inject their own creativity, their own world into what's happening in this abandoned mine. If I had to choose something though, my first thought is a magic-infused broadsword with like a translucent honey blade made with like crystal shards and all that stuff. Maybe it was secretly crafted by a worker who was stealing materials from the mining company. Imagine like meeting them out in the world and learning what happened and like why this mine was abandoned. Oh, okay. What if hitting someone with a honey sword causes the same effect as tasting the honey does? I could go on forever with ideas. Y'all gotta let me know what you think. If you were the game master, if you were like deciding what object goes here, what would you put here? Okay, I really want to hear from you guys. If you were the game master, what would your purple honey do to a player who tried to taste the honey? Like, I really want to hear your ideas. Like, would it hurt them? Would it heal them? Would it even taste any good? Is it wanted? Is it feared? With all the art for the map and the bugs done, it's time to scan them in so I can work with them digitally. I really love how they turned out. They're so cute! Here, I've loaded up my postcard template in Affinity Publisher. For small projects I plan to print, I like starting off in Publisher because I can easily switch between designer and photo personas if I need to add vectors or edit images. For one side of the postcard, I'll have the map, and the other side will have notes on the key rooms and the creatures you'll encounter. So after I crop out the map, there's a little trick I like to use to make a uniform but organic edge. So I created a rectangle curve, and I used the brush outline and used that as a mask. Then I'll take the stamp tool and I'll just copy parts of the texture that I need in the artwork and fill in that missing edge. Hot tip, write your dungeons before going to layout, because it will save you headaches. To be honest, what I do for little projects like this, I'm a little wild, and I just write and edit as I go. But I don't recommend it. If you want an easy time, don't do that. Here, I'm just dropping in letters and guessing how many key locations I can get away with. But this isn't efficient. You should write your dungeon beforehand. If you don't mind wasting a little extra time, though, you can make it work out in the end. Finally, to the next side of the postcard. I saved y'all the pain of watching me rewrite all this text like 5 times. I actually should have put this information in a table to make what I do later easier, but we're being a little loud. We're being a little goosey. We're doing stuff kind of wrong so we can feel a little bit like a criminal. Don't tell the editors that I write directly in my layout sometimes. Don't tell them. Don't tell the editors. Don't snitch on me. You'll make me cry. The part I find fun about creating system agnostic stuff is that you get to play with the balance of the information and the storytelling. Limiting myself to a postcard is also another fun part of this challenge that I like to try every now and then. You want to give enough details to players and game masters so they have enough to weave it into their stories, but not so much that they can't fit it into their established world. With that in mind, I'm not going to be adding stats to these creatures, but I am going to add short descriptions to help suggest what stats or powers could be assigned to them. You might also notice I don't describe bugs in any of the rooms except for the nursery and the queen's chamber. And it's not because I don't have space to type the words, but I want to intentionally leave a lot of creative room for a game master to control the encounters. Okay, so here I'm doing a quick job of adding an alternating background behind the text. This is where it would have been so much easier if I had just made this a table block, but I got a good enough effect in the end. It worked out. I knew better. I could have done better, but I didn't. But that's okay. I do what I want. It's fine, dungeon. In the end, I also decided I wouldn't explain any effects of eating or touching the purple honey either. Maybe it can be super violent and sad honey. Honey that makes you sad. Or it can be oh my god, this honey's badass and it makes me a bajillion feet tall. Whatever fits your setting. Here's a playground and some toys to get you started. Have fun with it. Change what you need to. Embrace what works with your table. Leave out what doesn't. That is what's so magical about system agnostic goodies that people make. Anyway, we're coming up to the end, and I just wanted to thank everyone for watching and liking and subscribing and all this stuff. I can't wait to make more of these, and I can't wait to hear any ideas y'all share. I'm going to be on the lookout for comments because I know there's a lot of creativity out there. All that stuff now is for me to do some test prints of the postcards and lay out a page for the handmade stickers. I did miss a check mark for the bleed setting, by the way, so don't worry about the white border in the postcard print. I still think it looks good, to be honest. Here's me working on the sticker page. Since there was plenty of room on the sticker page, I just recolored a bunch of gems and crystals I illustrated for little wolves to kind of match with the glimmer bugs. They fit right in with the glimmer bugs, I think. For fun, I used this textured paper that kind of gave that watercolor paper look, and it looked really cool with the artwork. Thanks again for going on this little adventure and making this postcard dungeon with me. I hope you had a little fun or learned a little something. I know I am always making mistakes, and I am always learning from those mistakes. And I hope we learned together. This whole video editing thing is a new world for me, and I'm excited to do it again. Feel free to check out more of my work and what we're doing at Dinoberry Press at dinoberrypress.com. We have a lot of fun stuff planned for this upcoming year, including a bunch of collaborations. Before y'all go, I have an announcement. I've launched a Patreon, and these postcard dungeons and sticker sets will be a part of the monthly rewards. If you join the Diploberry Dungeon Club anytime this month, that's January 2025, you'll get a physical print of Hive of the Glimmer Bugs, a set of stickers, a coupon for our store, and some other little goodies. We've got behind the scenes content, and we want to post blogs with insight of our past projects and just creating TTRPGs in general. And if you're just a fan of stickers, we have the Stegoberry Sticker Club tier. The minimum will always be 2 large vinyl stickers, but let's be honest, I'm always sneaking in extra stickies and extra little designs on the sticker print pages. Like this month, for example, everyone is getting the 2 big Glimmer bug designs, but I'm definitely going to throw in a random little crystal and a little isopod for everyone. With this Patreon, I really wanted to offer something that was a little bit more than a piece of art. This is something you can take to the table and play with your games. Maybe these dungeons can help lighten the load for our forever GM friends. Maybe the stickers can be fun rewards for players who conquer the dungeon. In the end, it's also a great creative exercise for me, and I'm really looking forward to making more. Anyway, I'm excited to hear your dungeon delving stories. Don't forget to share this video with a good friend. I'll see you next month for another dungeon and some more stickers. Ta-ta!